Hi there, welcome to the Barbara Young channel, and thank you for joining me and coming to see what I'm doing on my sewing journey. Now, I do like to keep things easy. As an amateur sewist, I don't want things to be too difficult, so my next project is the New Look 6708. And as you can see, it even says easy on the pattern. We'll test that, I suppose, and see how it goes. Hopefully it is. I've had a look at it, a quick look at it, and it seems to be quite a straightforward top. There's the line drawings. And it looks to me that it is basically, it's a front, it's a back, and it's sleeves, and there's not much else to it than that. It looks a bit like from those line drawings there might be a closure at the back, so you can get it on off over your head, I suppose. But other than that, it doesn't seem to be much else to it. So yeah, I'm hoping it's easy. So what am I going to be making it with? Well, I've got my little tray. I've got a few of these little trays, and I put the projects in there before I get started. Hopefully, as long as it's not too big a project that needs a lot more materials and stuff. But I can usually get everything in there. But the material is my cat print material. Now this is not overly drapey because it is a cotton poplin, but with the style of this, I want that structure to hold, especially on the sleeves. So cotton poplin seems like a sensible choice to me to make this with. I'm sure it will look just nice. Now, having got the cotton poplin, I've also got my mock-up material. Now, the question is, should I do a mock-up or not? Based on the supposed consideration that this is an easy top, do I need to make a mock-up? I mean, it's meant to be fairly simple. I've got the material, I've got some thread, and I've got, a choice of buttons. Beyond that, there isn't much else to it. So I think what I need to do is basically have a look at the pattern, have a look at the instructions, and do some measurements and make a decision as to whether I want to do a mock-up or not, or just dive straight in. So let's get this open, have a quick look at the instructions and find out what I'm letting myself in for this easy top. So let's have a look at what I've got. I've got the instructions and the pattern pieces, which there aren't a lot of it, and I didn't expect there to be a lot because it is supposedly quite an easy design. Let's go and have a quick look at these instructions. So what have we got here? So what I've got here is 4 pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, and the blank page. Of course, there's always got to be a blank page. Thank you, New Look, and I thought we were doing really well. But never mind, a bit short on the instructions again. Just have to have a quick read through. Mind you, there shouldn't be that much there for it because it is meant to be an easy top. So quick read and find out what size I'm going to be making. So page 1 is actually quite simple. It's just basically the diagram of how many pieces. There are actually 7 according to this. Which is interesting because it says I've got a front, a back, a sleeve front and a sleeve back. So the sleeve is in 2 halves, which is interesting. And then it's like, instructions on how you can sew it, different details. And then we've got the layout. Now, for me, I'm going to have to be careful because my layout, I've got a narrow width material, 2 meters of it, but it's a narrow width. So I'm going to have to be careful about how I lay this out. According to this, I've got some odd manoeuvring to do to get it all to fit on there. So that'll be interesting. Then on page 2, I presume I'm going to actually start sewing stuff. Yeah, it's looks like it's the centre back. Oh look, I thought there's a little detail in there for putting a little closure at the top of the back so that it opens and closes, and then you put one of those little loops on. So that little loop, you have a little bit of a slot at the back of the garment so you can actually get it on and off over your head, which is fairly simple. And then after that it is putting the back and fronts together. So that's not a lot to it, putting the front and backs together. That's fairly simple, quite like that. And then we're on to the sleeves, and the sleeves is basically some gathering stitches on the top of the sleeves, then putting the sleeve together, and then doing the hemming on the sleeve. Now it says to leave a channel open, I think there. I'm trying to leaving an opening to insert elastic because it's elasticated. Now I'm not sure if I want elastication on this, so I might change that. I don't know yet. I have to see how it looks before I get to doing that. And then we're on to page 3, where I then get to insert the sleeve head into the top of the garment. Now it's a bit odd because this section up the top here is actually forming part of the neckband area, as you can see in the next picture. So then I have to use bias tape to finish off that top edge, and then hem the whole thing, and that is pretty much it, really. So in total, the total instructions on this amount to 1.5 pages out of 4. How hard can it be? Well, could be quite hard. So I'm just going to get the actual pattern opened up and have a look and check this and see what size I actually want. Now I've got the pattern pocket in front of me, and I've actually got the pattern, and on here it does say finished garment measurements. Now as this is a sort of t-shirt top, I'm going to base it on what they call the bust measurements for this, chest measurements, however you want to say it, for this. And it also tells me that the ease above body measurements is 7.5 inches, which in my measurements is about 19 centimeters. So on here, if I'm looking at this and what my measurements are, I should be able to do possibly a size 14. And if I'm looking on here for a size 14, it says bust measurements is 36 inches, which is all the way up here, which tells me that's about 92 centimeters. But then that doesn't include, I don't think, the ease, which is 7.5 inches. That takes me up to about 110 centimeters, of which for me is perfectly fine. That will fit me fine. I think if I went down to the 12, it would be too tight. So the 14 looks like it's the size to do. Size 14. So yeah, I'm going to get this prepped up, cut out, sorted, get it ironed, take the creases out, and then look at tracing it, because I also like to trace my pieces so I can then keep the original sizing. So next step, get my sizes sorted, get the print. Not the print. Have I any idea what I'm talking about? No, I don't. Size. Better get on with it, I suppose, and stop prattling. So now I've got my pieces cut out, ready to go, and I've got my material here, ready to cut out to put the piece on, get them all sorted. I can get on and get this done. No, 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 no. I can't do it. I can't make it without doing a mock-up beforehand. It's just not in me. So I just feel that I want to do a mock-up, which I've got this material for, because I want to be sure that I've got the right size. I want to be sure of the instructions, and I know it's such a simple top. So to one of my viewers who said I can make this without having to do a mock-up, I'm sorry, Jan, I'm going to do a mock-up. And now I've got all of my pieces cut out for the mock-up. Yeah. And a quick look on the instructions. It looks like the first thing to do is to actually put the back pieces together and to do that sort of enclosure bit that goes on the back at the top. And then once I've done that enclosure, which looks really quite simple and straightforward. And then it's stitched the front and back pieces together. The front and back are now together, which is quite simple really. I mean, it's only 3 pieces here. Now with the seam for the back where it's joined, what I've done is this thing where you stitch down the centre, open it up and then turn it under like it says, and that's how it tells you to do it. So you get this, so when you've stitched up to this point, I've put some zigzag just to like call it as a bar tack just to help strengthen that. Then that creates that opening at the top on the back, which is obviously going to help with getting it on and off. And then I put this little loop on. Not very happy with that little loop, with the way that is. Might do something slightly different with that when it comes to the main garment, but yeah, there we go. It comes together quite quickly really. Next up is the sleeves really, because that's all there is really. 2 sleeves, so I'll get them together and start looking at how they're going to go in. 2 sleeves done, ready to go in. There's a whole bunch of gathering on these sections. Now that gathering is actually, as it were, oddly on the inner side, because that's how it's going to fit in against the actual top section, but the the bodice section. But yeah, imagine that's going to be slight fun, but better get on with it then really, hadn't I? See how those go in. Well, this is the mock-up now all done. It's done as much as I need it to be. And yeah, actually, it's not bad. It's quite a nice, fairly simple design. I think if I wasn't doing the mock-up and I was maybe a bit more experienced, I'd probably fly through this much quicker than I have, but just wanted to be sure what I was doing, especially with this these 2 sleeves, the way that they sit. And they've come out quite well really. I mean, there's this ruching detail. I know this mock-up material is rather busy, so you can't really see it, but what you've got is along there and on the back as well, you ruche it up back and front. So yeah, that's quite nice. I was initially thinking, is this the right size for me? But it is. This is a size 14, and judging by the amount of ease that's meant to be in it, that seems about right, so I'm quite happy with that. Obviously I just got to hem it up and finish that off, but of course it's just the mock-up, so I'm not going to. And then there's the sleeves. Again, I haven't finished these sleeves off because what you're meant to do is turn them up, create a channel, put some elastic in there, so it sort of, I don't know, does whatever on the sleeve. I don't know, perhaps I might not do that, perhaps I might just turn them up. I haven't decided yet exactly what I'm going to do there. And then I've got this neckline, which is meant to have bias tape on there. I'm not sure yet. If I was going to do that, obviously I'd have to make it out of the material that I've got, because I've got no bias tape that looks like the cat print material that I've got. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I might do something else slightly different with this. I'll have a think about that as I get on to making the main garment. But yeah, the mock-up has come out fine. I had a good idea of how it was going to work, and that's been proven to myself, as it were, while doing this mock-up. So I'm fairly confident in doing this and doing it quite quickly. Then of course you've got this neck closure, which allows it to go on and off a bit more easy, otherwise it'd be a bit tight to get over and get this over my head. Not saying a big head or anything, but you know, you need some way of getting your body into the top. But yeah, overall I'm really quite happy with this, the way it's come out. So time to stop messing about and get on with the real material. Now all that my pieces are ready, all my patterns cut out, materials cut out, ready to go. And so next stage is starting to sew it up. Well, I've got motoring on with getting this together, starting with putting the two back pieces together and seaming that up, and then putting the front on with the side seams. So I've got a front and a back basically all together, and finished all the seams, because obviously it never tells you to finish the seams on the instructions, and I know, probably always sit there wondering what should I do with the seams. So on this occasion I've done the seams like this in the manner that I quite like to do, which is to open them out, iron them out flat, and then turn them in underneath themselves and then stitch along again to create that sort of, I don't know if I can show on here very well, like a double line of stitching on that seam. And then at the top on the back I put the loop on. There's a little loop there, which is actually a bit of a bugger to put in really. It's certainly a bit trying. And then obviously this is where that closure is on the back, and you've got the little loop there now at the top, which means that I can put a button on there and have the loop closure. So yeah, starting off quite well. And as there aren't many pieces to this, next up is the sleeves, which actually weren't that taxing really, just took a little bit of time, a little bit fiddly, but nothing extraordinarily difficult. So better blast on with that and see if I can get them in. Both my sleeves are now done, well, nearly done, but anyway, what I've got is on the sleeve you've got this curve that first of all you have to put some gathering stitches in on front and back, and then it's just a case of stitching the outer seam and the underarm seam together. Now with the outer seam I finished that off in the same way I have with the other seams. I pressed it down and then turned it in underneath and then stitched along, so I get that double stitching effect, double line effect on there, which I really like. That's my preferred method of finishing seams, to be honest. If I don't have to zigzag it, then I don't. I haven't got an overlocker, so I can't do that. But obviously with this inner seam there's not enough room in there for me to be able to do that, so that's got standard zigzag seam on there, which is fine. Now the next thing actually is to finish this this hem, this sleeve part here on this on the sleeves, on both of them. And what I have to do is turn it over and then create enough room of a channel in there for the elastic, because they're meant to be elasticated. So I think that's what I will do with these, because it says it on the instructions, so I'll do it and then hopefully see how that comes out. But I'm sure it'll look fine, but that's the way I'm meant to do it. So that is all that's left to do to finish off both of these sleeves. Now I've just got to get the sleeves pinned in, and what I've done is pinned in the main point and at the top, but then of course I've got to gather these the gathers in, as it were. So having pinned it in, what I've done is I put two pins in, going in not along with the material but into it on the you know, on the angle, so that it goes inwards from the side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to gather up as much of the gathers as I can, but not sort of spread them out too much. I'm not making them all perfectly neat at this point. Just want to get the gathers in to try and pull the material down to the point where I know it fits the space that I want. So just pull that back out a little bit. And then what I tend to do, okay, so that one needs to go in a bit more. And it's just basically a case of pulling this about until it's sort of even with the material underneath. So that's about right, I'd say. I'm quite happy with that. Then what I do is I take this bit of thread, and where I've put this pin in, I loop it round and just do that several times. So I've looped it round the actual pin, and that holds that side, so I know it's not going to go anywhere on that side now. And then it's a case of just making sure it's still where I want it. Maybe gather up a little bit more from this side just to take up any slack that might have been created in doing that. I think that's still pretty much about where I want it. And then once I've got it sort of how I want, then what I'll do is I'll do the same on this side with this pin that I've got in here. Just loop it round several times. Now I've done that, I've anchored it at those 2 points, so now I can spread out my gathering evenly across this space, knowing that it's not going to be accidentally getting wider or anything, or going out of the size that I want it to be. So nice and slow, simple job of just trying to move the gathers until I've got it nice and even, and then I can stitch it. But obviously I've got to do this side as well, so I'll do that bit, do this bit on this side because it's on both sides, the gathering, and then I can stitch the whole lot and get that sleeve in there. I now have 2 sleeves in, got those in. They went in quite well really, took a little bit of time and patience, but they did go in alright. And I've hemmed the bottom of it, so that's all done. So last thing is actually putting the bias binding on round the neckline. So I've created my own bit of bias binding from some of the material, you know, just cut it on the bias and attach them together, so I've got a nice long length there, and that should be enough to go around the neck piece. So I need to get that on. Now I'm not too good with bias binding, so it'll take me a little while, I imagine. and then there's a little button to go on the back, and that's it. It'll be done. So almost there. Finally finished. The top is done, so let's have a look at it and see how it's come out. And as you can see, I think it's come out really nice. It's got a lovely sort of feel to it. It sort of just sort of sits. I love the that detail on the sleeve, the way that it goes in. It's a little bit odd at first, but once I got used to it and got that gathering worked out, then it just seemed to go in really, really nicely. With my finishes as well, such as the seam finishes, which I tend to do it that way if I can. I like the effect that it gives with that double line, so finishing it off that way was really, really nice, and it just leaves all the seams looking really nice and really flat as well generally. So yeah, I think this has come out really, really nicely. It's a lovely, lovely top. So you know, what more can I say about it? It fits nice. It's size 14 is what I used, and yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Should I have bothered making a mock-up? Well, for me, yeah, it just gave me the confidence to feel that cutting into the good material wasn't going to be a drama. I wasn't going to have any problems. But I mean, I imagine that if you're a confident sewist and you're someone that's been sewing for a long, long time and you've got the experience, unlike me, that this top will be able to be done quite quickly without having to do a mock-up, because there's nothing overly taxing about it, and it's not very many pieces basically. Each sleeve is 2 pieces, and you've got front and a back, and there's not much else to it than that. So yeah, it's a nice top. I enjoyed making it, and I'll definitely make it again, maybe even use some slightly more drapey fabric next time to make this so it's got a bit more, I don't know, drape to it, as they say. So yeah, very, very enjoyable make, and this material's lovely. I mean, I think it looks really nice and it sits really well. These pretty cats all over it. So yeah, it's a nice top. I enjoyed making it. That was the New Look 6708. Give it a go, I'd say, because it's not hard. Definitely nice and enjoyable make. Thank you very much for watching my video. I look forward to seeing my next video.